in 2018, I quickly discovered Cardano. I got very intrigued about Cardano because I saw the potential it holds, mostly because I live in Africa and I could see the things that can actually be onboarded on Cardano. Example is
Hey guys,
land registry, right, which is
I
a
just wanted to
huge
hop
problem in
on
Africa,
so we can
especially
watch
where
the
I
Cardano
stay.
Africa
And
special together.
we
Right now they're
have
talking
committed ourselves
to
to educate
developers
people,
that
and
are
this
on
effort is
Project
actually
Catalyst right
sponsored
now.
by our stakeholders, and
So
also
let's take a quick
partnering with
listen and I'll do a
very,
little
very
quick recap in
exciting
a second.
people like WADA, who is committed in education and also implementation of these ideas in Africa. And we are all going for number one.
Hi everyone, my name is Reese and I am the owner-operator of Neat Stakepool. I'm a systems engineer from Cape Town, South Africa, and my journey with Cardano started a couple of years ago when I came across an article on a website that described a bold and ambitious project that seeks to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. That article resonated with me and...
Okay, so we have some stake pool operators that are coming on to talk about their pools and what they're doing. But for those of you who missed anything that's coming up, we have a couple of new partnerships, right? Tanzania, they're partnering with a decentralized blockchain-based internet provider. So we're talking like for cellular provider that's going to be piggybacking off of the fiber network that's already actually in the country. So super cool. Think about this: before you can bank the unbanked, you have to connect the unconnected, right? So I think it's a super strategic partnership. Also, you guys already know about the Addis Ababa 5 million students / teachers that are going to be onboarded onto the Atala Prism system, right? So also the Atala Prism system is going to be connected to the cellular service provider in Tanzania. That's super, super cool. So all the pieces are starting to come together. And for those of you who are thinking, well, that's kind of small, well, it's actually the largest actual blockchain project with a government that we've had to date for any project. So just keep that in mind. It's all about context, right? So this is going to function as a great pilot program that they can take and copy and paste into other African countries. It's going to be super, super cool. Let's go hear what they have to say.
Hello, Cardano community. This is April from Zoe Politica ZOE. I'm from Nigeria and currently based in Port Harcourt City. I got to know about the Cardano community in Port Harcourt through my friend Joshua, who happens to be the Nigerian ambassador of Cardano. And I'm currently the only female stakepool operator here in Africa. Zoe Pool is a place where women in blockchain are cherished, and we seek to bring blockchain education down here in Africa, especially for women, seeing that the number of participation of women is really daunting. And I believe strongly that...
So what Zoe was mentioning, just a reminder that they've already done a course teaching developers on Haskell or Plutus with specifically women coders.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Lete and I operate Smiles on Africa Stakepool. I'm from West Africa and the Greater Accra region of Ghana. I got involved with Cardano way back in 2017-2018 where I came across Charles Whiteboard video where he talked about the generation of blockchain, and ever since that, I've been a part of the Cardano community. It is my hope and dream to...
You guys ask any questions in the comments and I'll see if I can go back and address them.
With the roles from Smile. I believe Cardano has more to offer with the current mobile money fraud going on across the continent and land registration issues. I hope the government of the Republic of Ghana adopts it for the greater good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Welcome to WADA, the West African Decentralized Alliance, connecting West African developers and entrepreneurs to the Cardano ecosystem. We do this through infrastructure and capacity building, education, outreach, dApp creation, and by forming a network of hubs through relationships on the African continent and in the diaspora. WADA is by the community, for the community, and we are here today because of the immense community support given us. As Cardano achieves its milestones in Africa, remember that WADA is open for business, and we are rapidly scaling to embrace and leverage the growth opportunities opening up through our work on the ground.
Oh, thanks so much, Barkville. I fully intend on it.
To expand Cardano's market in Africa and even more. Our hubs are currently active in Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, and DRC, and we are adding more using our sustainability model. We will continue to count on you, Cardano community. We add to multiply.
Ata la yengo ta apole shon or yem homembuga shon.
Okay, so this is another stake pool alliance, right? So you guys are going to see some. If you go and look on Twitter, there's like the other alliance members too that have different qualifications, right? They might be single owner operators, right?
Project, especially for you new folks that might not have heard about it. So Project Catalyst have become, in the last 6 months, the largest decentralized innovation fund in the world. So in Fund 3, we had more than 20,000 unique wallets registered to vote, and around 3.5 billion ADA that has voted. We have 21,000 people participating in this
10%
scale, so
of the
tens of thousands of
current
people
supply.
Working together and collaborating to build and decide on the best proposals to promote Cardano. And we can see that all our communication channels are filled with activity. Our Discord channel, I think, has...
Okay, they're giving more stats. Real fast, everybody, just a quick reminder. Project Catalyst, right now we're finishing up Fund 5. So go take a look over there on Idea Scale and take a look at some of these proposals. People are trying to build some amazing things. Side note, Cardax Dex, Liquid Finance. I have another interview today with NFT Maker. It's their creator is the Babel Pool, and I think it's going to be really interesting. You can already go and actually use this and go and test it out. It's a proof of concept for easily minting NFTs off of a website. So just to let you know, cool things, go check this stuff out. Project Catalyst. All of these are going to eventually be integrated into and baked into Daedalus, into the wallet. So you won't need to go to a third-party website to go through the voting process. It'll all be concatenated within the Daedalus wallet. And I would assume eventually maybe the mobile Yoroi app.
Exciting venue. Not only there's the funding within the Catalyst project that focused on Africa, but there's already an amazing enthusiastic group of community leaders, some of them based in Africa, that you can already interact with and support as they go around making transformational changes. The main question this challenge is asking is, how do we seed and grow Cardano in Africa? Okay, so what we're looking for is technologies and applications and programs and all sorts of ideas that would help us.
Okay, yeah. So, guys, let me know what you think about the news today. Are you underwhelmed by it? Are you overwhelmed? Is it kind of ticking the boxes for you? What do you think? How do you think the market's going to react to it? Right? Always interesting things to go. Let me know in the comments. I have my own thoughts. I'll voice them here in a minute.
What's really beautiful about this is that this is not a top-down project. This has been voted in by the community. The proposers could be you. It could be anybody that has the right idea and the right skills to address this challenge effectively. We have high hopes. We actually have amazing responses so far. We have already 32 proposals that have been submitted to this challenge. So there's already a lot of competition and energy about how we are getting this, how to solve this challenge. So we really invite you to come and engage. The way to do is you go to cardano.ideascale.com, you create an account there. You will see a list of all the challenges. You can click on the challenge, the Africa Challenge, read about all the proposals, get informed, and we will
so he's telling you exactly what I just told you.
About how
Go
to
participate.
To vote and all sorts of ways you can contribute and bring value. So I just wanted to add another note why I'm personally so excited about the Africa Challenge. This challenge was not just created in a day. Okay, this has been months and months of work by the community to make this a reality. It all started in Fund 3, happening several months ago. and when there were around 20 different challenges competing for funding. And the community said in a very strong, unified vote that our focus, the way we want the Cardano treasury to be spent, is to address this challenge. This is the collective effort of tens of thousands of people, billions of ADA in voting power that voted yes to this challenge, that said this is what we want to do together. And this just demonstrates.
Okay, so he's talking about, yay, we have a voting system. So here's the deal. The voting system only works if everybody's actually participating and actively participating. So if somebody were to ask me what makes me the most nervous about Cardano, it's not smart contracts. I think they're going to meet their deadlines. Life's going to be good. We're going to have great working products. The thing that I've yet to see it really, really come to fruition is our governance, built-in governance on the chain. And what I mean by that is, yeah, we can vote. We can't vote on protocol level changes yet. That's coming later in the year. However, we've yet to see, this is really a social experiment, right? We're yet to see how much participation we're actually going to actively have with people being informed.
Last year, Cardano has grown and matured to be the leading proof-of-stake network in the world. Alongside a vibrant network of independent stake pools, the protocol has also driven a new non-profit
I don't
paradigm.
know what's up with this music in the
Nearly
background.
$500 million worth of ADA is currently delegated to mission-driven pools, generating rewards for ADA holders, but also supporting great causes.
Sounds like a marimba.
Here's Eva Oberholzer and the Cardano Foundation team to tell us more about how this exciting and inspiring new area is developing from new charity partnerships, from Save the Children to payment gateways with our partners COTI.
5 million students on Cardano. This truly is a sign for blockchain becoming of age. Very warm welcome.
Definitely
from
agree.
the Cardano Foundation.
Bitcoin's
My
taking a
name is
negative
Eva.
3% dump while this is going on. So yeah, let's look at the Bitcoin comparative, right?
News. Since the launch of the Shelly mainnet last year and the introduction of proof-of-stake delegation mechanisms, our stateful operators not only have taken over the production of all the blocks, they've also introduced new business model, which actually connects blockchain to sustainable finance and to donations. Some of you might have seen our latest press release. We've announced that over 10,000 delegators, which means people that hold ADA, have delegated over $500 million worth of ADA to mission-driven stake pools. This means that
Speaking of which, mission-driven, Project Muse, guys, Muse Pool, we are building a decentralized version of a streaming service that's basically going to be cutting out the middleman between the consumer and the musician or artist. So, same here.
Transparently. What better way is there to exemplify the community's pioneering spirit and our loyalty towards our mission? At the Cardano Foundation, our mission is to make Cardano accessible to a broader audience and to drive adoption. To do this, we work with organizations and projects. We educate them and we help them with critical infrastructure or with technical integrations. I'm excited to announce that the Cardano Foundation will be working together with Save the Children in Africa.
Oh, wow.
And enable donations to empower communities in East Africa based on blockchain. Elliot, Jeremy, and I sat together with their team in Africa and with other partners to explore this huge partnership and explain a bit more in detail what it's all about.
Good. I want to see if they're actually accepting ADA as a form of donation or not, or if it's going to be through USD.
We're delighted to be joined today by some very special guests, several members of Save the Children and Kind State.
They need to hook these people up with some nice cameras so they don't have to do fake bokeh.
Member of our communications team at the Cardano Foundation. I'll now hand over to Eleanor Harsel, Director of Program Development and Quality at Save the Children. Eleanor, would you please introduce yourself and your team members, as well as telling us a little about where you're located and what you're currently working on, what your mission is in Africa?
So I'm Eleanor. I'm the Director of Program Development and Quality for Save the Children's Rwanda and Burundi Country Office. And I'm joined by my colleagues James, Kathy, and Odette.
Hi everyone, my name is James Rayner. I'm the head of corporate and philanthropic partnerships for Save the Children's East and Southern Africa regional office.
Hi, I'm Kathy Uwimana, working at Save the Children in Rwanda, based in Kigali, and I work there as the Kumwe Hub Manager.
My name is Odette Nambara, and I am the communication.
Okay, so they're giving all the information for people on there. Like I was saying earlier, I'm curious to see how they're going to accept donations and if they're going to integrate and actually accept ADA and how that's going to actually be for tax implications.
Around the world. Our team here today is based in East and Southern Africa, most of us based in Rwanda. Globally, Save the Children's mission is to inspire breakthroughs in the way the world treats children. We work across 3 breakthroughs.
Okay, you guys can go look up Save the Children. I'll come back up in just a second. A side note, the Cardano Foundation, as of yesterday, they shifted their delegations to new stake pool operators, or not new, but smaller stake pool operators. So that's a lump sum of 15 million ADA per delegation. And it's going to be staying with those new pools for the next 3 months. Just a side note. Muse Pool was fortunate enough to get a delegation from them for 3 months, but now we have to let them go. So we have significantly dropped down, right? So we're like 1.9 million total staked, 450,000 personal pledge. So skin in the game is there. But go check those out.
Today. It's really interesting to hear more about your missions in Africa. And I'm going to go ahead and ask the question that's on everyone's lips, which is, why is accepting digital assets important to save the children? And how do you think that Cardano and the blockchain space in general could align and help you deliver on your missions?
Thanks, Elliot. It's a great question, and actually it's one that we've really started to shift our focus to at the moment. Blockchain in particular is really exciting. We've spoken about things like refugees. When they cross a border, often their identity, their educational record, whatever it might be, is completely lost. So it just makes a horrendous situation even worse because it's really hard to kind of start again. Blockchain is a great example of something that we could leverage to support that work and give people a kind of a digital identity for their education, for whatever else it might be, to make kind of starting again a lot easier. That's just one example. Supply chain is another big one. We work in humanitarian crises
That's a
across
pretty
the region.
big.
So being able to
that's like saying
map our
.com
supply
in
chain
the
with
early
other
2000s.
NGOs is another exciting area. More generally and more specific for our investment work, crypto is a great way for us to kind of simplify our processes and even things like paying some of the refugees that we're working with who are part of one of our programs. It's an exciting thing to do. So not only as a way to kind of fund our investments, blockchain and the whole kind of crypto scene is something that we're really keen to get involved with, not only to fund our work, but also to kind of unlock these.
Take a look at the link I
exciting
just posted
new
in the
ways,
chat. This actually,
to
for
basically
identity,
to
was
deliver
already
more
used
impact for
about
children.
2 years ago.
Thank you, James. It's inspiring that you have chosen the Cardano ecosystem to expand your ability and to work together with us and accept donations. I'm going to introduce you to Cedric Lustra, who is one of our largest mission-driven stake pool operators. Cedric is based in France and runs Kind Stake Pool. Cedric, you have donated to Save the Children in the past through Kind Stake Pool. Can you tell us why running a mission-driven pool is important to you and why?
Okay, we'll hear from him in just a second. So, side note: supply chain. That's like a keyword, right? So, I'm really happy to hear that they're choosing to do this and utilize their blockchain tech and potentially specifically Cardano for their solutions. But just know this is not a new idea. But I am happy to see that they're choosing ADA or Cardano as their blockchain of choice for these solutions.
To use ADA for social good. This is why every month we give back $100 to our generous delegate. That's on top of their reward, and we donate a percentage of our profit to charitable organization. Alongside other stake pool operator, we have adopted a strong focus on African charitable organization and how we, as a stake pool operator, can help them meet their humanitarian goals. Africa is a really important focus for us because Africa
Thanks
is
so much,
such
man.
a beautiful
Have fun with your
continent.
family.
It doesn't deserve the way it has been treated. Most people think Africa is a poor continent, but it's not the case. Most people in Africa may be poor, but the continent itself is one of the richest.
Okay, so he's talking about,
natural resources.
for those of you just
So we
logging on, he's
strongly
talking
believe
about
that the
situation in
will
Africa.
ensures that
It's not as bad as
everyone
people
must
think it
have
is.
food, water, energy, and to change the way the
Purpose-driven stake pool operators, that's a real thing. There are those that say, please give me free money so I can quit my job. Those exist. Watch out for those stake pools. One of the key features are low pledge. They have zero to little skin in the game, right? And high fees. Make a check on that. There's a whole bunch of pools that are doing different things. That they'll take a portion of their stake pool profits every epoch and put it towards some nonprofit organization or something else of their choice, right?
To save the children. At the time, it was around 660 ADA. And this month, we donated over 1,100 ADA, which is around like 1,300 pounds. So you'll be able to find the details of this donation on the Cardano blockchain. Why did we choose Save the Children? They've been working in Africa for more than 60 years.
Okay, so notice he just mentioned and referenced, you can go and check essentially the chain to know that their money went X, Y, and Z, right? So I want you guys to consider this, right? What gives an NFT value or gives makes it more legit? People are going to need to know that that address is associated with that specific organization.
We could ask our community to do anything, or how can they participate and help save the children? What would it be? And I think there's some initiatives that you're particularly...
Gareth, my stake pool pays out 5.5% annual over 73 epochs.
Catherine, if I could ask you to introduce that and tell us why you're passionate about that initiative.
So the Kunge Hub comes from this idea of togetherness, working together to achieve greater impact.
I'm with you. So we'll go more into this in just a second, but average person is under 30. Most of the people use cellular and mobile, so they're digital natives. That's a big barrier to entry for the States, right? My grandmother, she thinks Bitcoin is magic internet money.
To pilot groundbreaking private sector or third partner-led innovations to keep up with the ever-changing environment we live in, promoting inclusive technologies, innovation, and partnerships.
Gareth, just to let you know, my proceeds on my stake pool go to fund development of a service for musicians that's going to cut out middlemen. It's going to be a direct competitor to Spotify, Apple iTunes, and some other platforms.
A component that is acting like a research and development component of the hub, where we are piloting groundbreaking ideas in the context of Rwanda or East Africa.
Okay, so I'm gonna not cut her off right now, but just a quick thing back to what we're talking about Africa, guys. So think about this: land deeds, right? So we in the first world take for granted. If you looked earlier, right, digital identity, it's baked into what we do. We have offices for land that keep our records. Well, not the same for in Africa, right? So there's a lot of places that are they are war torn and they have no land rights like building that hosts the records, so nobody can prove ownership of land. So blockchain is really revolutionary for them.
We, as an organization, are over 100 years old. We've been doing charity and humanitarian work for 100 years. However, the world is changing.
Bart Pill, more information on what?
Are changing, and there's a lot of social entrepreneurship in East Africa, East and Southern Africa, particularly in Rwanda. The government of Rwanda has really set itself up to pioneer technology and innovation. The way the government is organized, the way it prioritizes initiatives, and they're welcoming this kind of investment and innovation. There are so many startups in Rwanda. However,
yes, I do. More information will be coming out later. We're shooting for Fund 6 on Project Catalyst for funding.
And they don't always have
development's already underway.
And resource to spring from a tiny little startup to actually reaching the populations that they have the potential.
I'm a musician, so I want the solution built myself, and there's not one, so I just figured I'm going to build it.
Startups are entrepreneurs, grants. And the other is through actually partnering in our lab to bring those innovations to scale.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
We have a couple of really interesting and exciting things in our pipeline.
If you guys want to
we've
keep a
started
heads
with.
up on what's going
Some
on, I'll
are
be
using
updating
technology. For instance,
musestakepool.io.
we've been working with urban refugees to code
I'm actually already
images,
bringing on.
for artificial intelligence,
Oh,
so
I'll
they're
stop for a
able to
second.
earn a decent livelihood from their phones. I think it was actually our pilot case, the average income was 10 times the average minimum wage in Rwanda. So that's an exciting innovation. So we're working with both high-tech and low-tech solutions to engage with the private sector and really transform how we as a charity or nonprofit organization traditionally work.
Thank you so much, all of you. It's very interesting.
So 501c3s in the United States, right? This is going to be a big deal for them. Now, the only thing is for those that are actually donating to the 501c3, how are they going to turn around and then use that? How are they going to get proof that they donated to this 501c3 when they're doing it in crypto? And that's something that needs to be, I think there isn't legislation yet to cover that. So just a side note.
Explore areas to work together.
It's great to find out more about Save the Children and the initiatives they are advancing across the African continent. We are now very excited to welcome to the Cardano ecosystem.
We can have a chat about this. I'll get on and do a video on it.
Who've been busy building a dedicated way for charities to accept data donations seamlessly. We are joined today by Shahaf Bar-Geffen, CEO at COTI, who'll be sharing more about this solution. I'll now hand over to Jeremy to take it away with the first question.
So it looks like they're
over
going
to you,
through
Jeremy.
COTI for payments.
Thank you, Elliot. So, Shah, could you
donations.
please explain to our audience, what solutions COTI is building for Cardano?
Totally
Sure
agree,
thing.
Kelk.
Some background. So, in case some of you haven't heard about COTI before, so COTI is a fully encompassing finance on blockchain solution that we've designed since 2017 to meet the challenges.
COTI is currently
of,
running on Ethereum.
Legacy
just a side note.
finance, specifically inclusion, fees, latency,
Nothing wrong with
and so
that.
on and so forth. And we're also solving things for digital type payments, and this is what brought us to the Cardano ecosystem.
This is COTI.
We recently received the first investment of the Cardano ecosystem fund, but our relationship goes back 2 years earlier when we've started developing AdaPay.
Hey, Brad.
We are now
Thanks for signing on.
upgrading AdaPay for Shelly mainnet and to meet all the new needs and cool features that Cardano has on the network, including native assets and so on and so forth. So AdaPay is the first thing that we launch on the Cardano ecosystem, but definitely not the last. We are already in touch with various teams in your ecosystem, and we're building more solutions that we'll present in the future.
And what opportunities do you think this has for charities such as Save the Children and our mission-driven pools that like to take rewards and donate to charitable organizations?
First of all, I think this is amazing, and this is a great privilege that the Cardano ecosystem has. As it stands
Oh, wow,
today,
Brad.
right?
Well, good morning to you.
On one side, you have the charitable organization that needs the money. And on the other hand, you have the pool that actually wants to donate the money. And what is happening today
This is important.
is that this pool needs to take the ADA that he wants to donate, sell it, go back to legacy systems, send the money back to Africa so that the organization can receive it later on after some times and when fees have been deducted. And it's an indirect process. And as we know, when things are streamlined, they usually work better and people do more of it. So what we are building with AdaPay for charitable organizations is the ability for the pool to directly send ADA to the charitable organization. So what it means is that the pool, with a click of a button, can donate the money that they want to donate. And that will go directly to the organization without any fees, without any latency, and with full transparency, which is also super important when it comes to donations. People want to know that their money is going where they
completely
hoped,
agree,
it will go.
Gareth.
So you have all of that, and there's actually zero disadvantages to this process. It will work better, and it will probably grow the amount of donations.
Okay, well, this is making me
hand,
excited.
what you also have is the ability to for merchants and people that have just received a payment with ADA through AdaPay to immediately donate some of it to organizations.
Oh, nice.
And again, when the option is there and it's easy to use and people want to do the right thing, and we see, $500 million
I still
waiting
want
to
to
do the right
know
thing,
if it's going via
then it
ADA
becomes
or if they're
a
converting
real
it to a
possibility, and
stable
this will
coin
grow.
or
And
fiat.
again, we're just happy to be able to facilitate this.
There's $500 million worth of ADA dedicated to mission-driven pools on Cardano. So this is a huge achievement and a massive milestone for our community. And I think that when payment gateways such as
guys,
COTI
I think COTI's
widespread
I think it's a
and-
good
and
thing.
mainstream.
Side note,
we're going to see this
if
number
you guys
grow, and
go
the
to
potential for ADA for charitable purposes.
Cardano artists,
will be
I'll
much
send a link in
greater.
the chat.
So I think the next
I'm
question
developing
that maybe
a
our
database
community are
for
interested in
musicians
finding
or
out is
nonprofit
just
organizations in the
how
music
easy
field that
will it
want to
be
accept
for a
ADA
charity
as a
to
form of
accept
donation.
ADA, and implement a payment gateway such as COTI in the future? And what are the impacts for charities?
I'll again begin by saying that the $500 million is amazing, and I guess it comes from the alignment of the vision of Cardano, that blockchain is a social good, to the actions that people that hold ADA in the ecosystem actually take, and this is amazing. In terms of how easy it will be to implement, it will be an implementation for non-programmers, okay? When technology works well, it works like magic. You're not even aware that it's present.
We want to keep it
just
simple,
works.
right? Yeah.
And this is how we're building this. So the idea is that any charitable organization can easily implement a widget in a website or use an app or whatever form they'll choose to accept a charity will be there to support it. Other than that, we'll also have a support team, of course, ready to help in case help is needed. But this will not be the issue at all. If the charities are there and the organizations are there, and we know that's the case, the implementation will be a non-brainer.
You're welcome.
And, we're happy to help.
That's great to hear, and I think it's what you're doing and what you've built.
I think this is my first
crucially
live stream on
important
here, so
for
hope you guys are
the
enjoying it.
adoption of Cardano and ADA for charitable purposes. And I hope that we can see many more synergies there in the future, and I look forward to seeing what COTI and Cardano and Save the Children can do collectively.
Thank you, and thank you for letting us be part in this amazing cause.
With its youthful entrepreneurial population, Africa has got everything to play for. Forget the old cliches. This is a young continent ready to take advantage of all the opportunity that new decentralized technologies can offer. Emergo is one of the 3 founding organizations behind Cardano. Here's Curtis Thayer to share some further thoughts on what Africa holds.
In the technology industry, oftentimes we talk about this idea of the innovator's dilemma.
Curtis does not look like Mark Zuckerberg.
When you innovate a technology, oftentimes you get entrenched in that space. And if you look at the macro technology space in general, many Western countries and many Western industries are kind of entrenched in this. And this is why in Africa you see them adopting a lot of new technologies very fast.
Yeah, all he's saying, for those of you who, the short is basically, we already have a solution built, it's centralized, it works, and it's pretty seamless because it's integrated in everything for the first world country. Third world countries do not have these solutions, right? So they're looking for anything and everything that can help level the playing field. Just so happens that blockchain tends to fit that bill.
Africa is more of the macro space. So obviously Africa has a very, very young population.
Oh, I know,
And a population that's very excited about new technology and is very knowledgeable about it as well. Adoption of blockchain and cryptocurrency has been very high in Africa, and that's very encouraging for us. Africa has the highest rate of entrepreneurship of any continent in the world. And if you look at countries specifically in West Africa, like Ghana, for example, I believe has the highest rate of female entrepreneurship of any country anywhere.
True,
and again, these are...
Side note for everybody that's wondering about this. So if you listen to the mainstream media, they go, "Oh, crypto and Bitcoin it's anonymous," and no, it's not. It's pseudo anonymous. Now, if you get into potentially like Dash or XMR, right, Monero, yes, those are anonymous. Also, side note, the FBI has out a bug bounty for anybody who can crack Monero. So just as an aside, just to throw that out there. Also, for nonprofit organizations that are going to be accepting payments, that's super transparent, right? Being able to say this amount of money went to this particular organization. That's going to be great for PR and optics. So I think that's a great pairing.
For a few years, we've been working on a project in Indonesia around the coffee industry. And the idea there was to empower farmers who had sustainable practices and small family
Totally agree,
farms
Gareth.
to
Yeah,
be able
ETN
to
is
really
also in
tell
there.
their story and build trust on a global scale. Right? A lot of times with complex supply chains, there's a difficulty for large organizations.
There's that word again, supply chain. It's been around since
And making
2017.
sure that it's farmed sustainably and in practices that are consistent with their values, right? Now, there are many farms, of course, that do that, but how do they build that trust?
Okay, so real fast, I want you to think about supply chain. What are the mechanisms that are needed for supply chain? You need some type of IoT device, Internet of Things device, that's going to take some type of data metric that it's measuring, and then it needs to get that data into the blockchain so it can actually be monitored. How do you do that? You need an Oracle solution. What does an Oracle do? Right? It grabs data that's outside of a blockchain in the real world or some external source that's not interior to the chain, and it brings that data into the chain, and the chain chooses to trust that as truth, right? So those are very pivotal ingredients to make supply chain integration with blockchain actually work.
Transparency and really empower a lot of small farms. I think that mission is really important. But actually, the way that we at Emergo see Trace,
Hey, R, I'm okay with it, man.
Specifically, is
I would
really
rather
more as a platform.
I think I'm enjoying this. So if you guys are
So
enjoying
we
it,
shared
I'll
more
keep doing
about
it.
all the exciting activities and partnerships we're forging and now executing on in Africa. There's lots more ahead. This is just the beginning. So maybe let's explore what that future may hold for the continent in terms of tech adoption and opportunity. We convened a panel with Charles Hoskinson, John O'Connor, Danelle Patel, and our Chief Commercial
should be
Officer,
fun.
Jerry Fragiskatos, to discuss just that. And we asked award-winning Financial Times journalist David Pilling to lead the discussion.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. I'm joined by the input-output management team, many of you of whom you've already met. So let me start. I mean, maybe I could start with you, Charles. I mean, most innovations from the Industrial Revolution through to the World War.
We're going to need to talk to these people about their audio quality. I'm just going to throw that out there.
You're kind of turning this on its head. Your focus on blockchain is now very much in the developing world.
Thanks, Kelk.
Why is that?
Well, you always go where there's a demand for the products that you build. And if you look at government technology, you look at the way that money works, if you look at the developed society, there's not as strong of a demand for upgrading or changing in the United States or the European Union as there are in Eastern Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia.
Right. Everything he's saying is like the first world country is not incentivized to port over to blockchain because that's cutting out so many middlemen that make a living off of taking cuts in between transactions.
A lot of our manufacturing base, and of course there's the Great Reset, but all things considered, we're winning, whereas some other parts of the world aren't moving as quickly. So you don't do the same thing over and over again. That's the definition of insanity. Rather, what you do is you take a step back and you say, okay, how can we compete differently? So there's a much broader set of things you can do, and everything is on the table. New voting systems, new property systems, new payment systems, new way of identifying people, new way of trading securities. A great example would be the country of Estonia. They leave the Soviet bloc, and they kind of have to start in the 90s from ground zero. And now suddenly you can vote online. Now you have a national ID card. You have a lot of digitization of the infrastructure that surpasses anything in the UK or the United States. And that's because they didn't have a legacy system to protect. So if we say, okay, where will the greatest demand for the type of technology we build be over the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's going to start in places like the continent of Africa, the subcontinent of India. It's going to start in places like Mongolia or the country of Georgia. It's not going to be in the United States, in California or New
I'm
York
so
or
ready
other
to just
places.
take my phone
We're gonna have to
everywhere
catch
and not have to worry about a
you see
wallet.
that
I'm just
again
going to throw
and
that out there.
again, where you have startups outcompeting old stodgy monopolies. The Microsofts outcompete the IBMs, and then the next cohort comes and outcompetes the Microsoft, and so forth. It's an endless cycle of innovation.
I mean, this brings us on to the concept in the sense of leapfrogging, which is very well used in Africa. Some people, are skeptical about it. I mean, I don't know if I could bring in one of the other panelists, but do you see this potential really to leapfrog when some of the physical infrastructure, for example, the roads and the ports and the rail, are still very shoddy in many cases? Can technology really help?
Honestly, I think that's a misconception. necessity is the mother of all invention. And if you look at, for example, internet connectivity, by 2030, the vast majority of people in Africa, well over 90%, will have high-speed internet connectivity through some means. Either it's cellular or satellite. I mean, just look at what Starlink is doing, and
Google's
look
done
at the
this.
proliferation of 5G. The cost of getting people
balloons,
online
right?
is going down, and the technologies used to get people online don't involve trenching out millions of miles of fiber optic cable. It's just a broadcast. And then you look at these cell phones that we have, they're supercomputers, and our upgrade cycles every 24 to 36 months. And where do they go after we upgrade? They don't just disappear. They don't just go thrown into a landfill. They become accessible to a different group of people. So the innovations of today are available tomorrow. So I think within 10 years, whatever
Bart Pill, I really
infrastructure gap
appreciate that,
may
man.
be
I don't
apparent,
plan on it.
that's going to be
I've been around the
closed.
space
And the
long
cost
enough
of doing
that
things always falls.
I just
once you
I
have
hate
that baseline of infrastructure.
I
in
hate
digital
the
commons,
fake
we're all
stuff.
equal.
I'm not going to call it
We all
anybody
have access
specifically,
to the same
but
educational
I
content.
will
We
make
all
our
have access
thumbnails
to
that are
the same
crazy just because I
platforms,
think it's funny and it's
the
trolling.
same payment
But
systems, the same
never expect any
way
hype
of
from me.
doing business. So it becomes much more competitive, and it becomes much more merit-based rather than geographic.
Sorry about that, Amanda. Well, I'm happy you're over
or
here.
other considerations.
I think on top of the lack of a legacy system,
Jerry's got some. He's got some stereo
and
audio
Monte's
going
need
on.
to actually provide these services they don't have. I think demographics also plays.
I
an important
approve, Jerry.
factor. So I think in the African continent, the population is by and large much younger than the Western
Yeah, that
world,
vault's pretty intense.
And new technologies are adopted far more.
Some might call
quickly
that a phallic symbol.
From the newer generations. The other point I think which is important is that this is a new technology that offers new features. And so in the past, if you had an idea and a problem to solve, the pieces
Ben
that
is
were missing
awesome.
was
I love
getting
Ben.
talent to bear
We
to
need
solve
more
that problem
like
and
him
funding.
in the space.
So places like Silicon Valley and these centers of innovation were the primary drivers of innovation. With the blockchain, what's happening is you're democratizing this. You're giving access to a global infrastructure that allows for
Yes,
social
all
and
hail
financial
Papa Ben.
inclusion on a global scale.
For those of you who don't know Ben,
on
Benjamin
on
Cowan. Go subscribe.
on the
He'll change your
opportunities
life.
that we're working on in Africa, we leveraged the global team off of 4 continents.
Guys, this guy's
And
audio
the
is
funding comes
like
from
high
the
tech. If
mechanism.
anybody from
And we also have
IOHK
a
is
governance
listening to
system in
this,
place
you guys need to
that
copy and
democratizes
paste.
this. So anybody anywhere that has a good idea can use this system to bring that idea to fruition, and that's unique. This was previously only the purview of the innovation centers, and now this is becoming.
I'm going to say it once, and then I'm not going to say it again. Cardano, it's just a vaporware. They aren't doing anything.
Of the internet that was missing, which is the democratization of it. Not before the big companies centralized it, and access to the talent and funding, which they didn't have.
Look, let's be real. There are gatekeepers everywhere, right? So for little people who don't have a plethora of a war chest of money or lawyers to beat litigation to actually break into the space with a new idea, at least in the first world, it's almost impossible, right? So I think this is going to be revolutionary.
I actually had an interesting story to tell. So I was recently in Zambia, and I wanted to verify my birth certificate. So I went over to the birth certificate registry office, and I handed them my
720p.
birth certificate. He said, "Look,
Hey,
can you
that's
verify
one of the
that this is authentic?"
that's
And
one of
then
the disadvantages
he
of
looked at
Zoom.
me, and literally from the floor to the ceiling were just stacks and stacks of birth certificates. And it's like, well, where do you start? I mean, this could take years before you're able to do so. Either you believe me, which is what I ended up doing. He just kind of stamped it, and I walked away with it. So what I'm just trying to say is that Africa's really hungry for solutions. So really anything that we can give.
All right, I vote everybody at IOHK. They take a small portion of their budget and just invest in some 4K cameras, some Sony A7s, just throwing it out there, and some large diaphragm condenser microphones and some headphones. Okay?
Provider in Ethiopia that will be issuing a government-endorsed ID. That's a big deal. And this is only the starting point, right? So we're working with the Ministry of Education, but we're seeing really the same level of interest across all government ministries. And
Yeah, I'm going to answer this for a second. Bart Pill, yeah, tell me what your budget is. Also, VEO, you were spot on. There's no actual reason to run an identification system on a blockchain. Like, you can use a centralized option, right? But here's where the problem arises is it's the cost benefit. So for America, I mean, extremely wealthy, we just print money willy-nilly, right? But if you have a very small economy, the cost benefit of a centralized service might, be extremely too expensive for them, right? Whereas the biggest benefits for a decentralized option for any service is the cutting out or replacement of middlemen by a protocol. That in and of itself saves money, right? So if you have a protocol, it's not incentivized to make a profit. It's just incentivized to run and to have enough value back, given back to itself to like form or a DAO or something.
One thinks of things like medical records. One thinks of agricultural supply chains and verifying those. Land registration is something else. I mean, these are things that have just occurred to me. I mean, are any of these applications that you can see being rolled out, across the continent because of this technology?
So the answer is yes. The demand is already there. When I'm working with governments across the continent, there is a clear appetite to be able to roll out digital identity across a variety of
Okay, so John O'Connor right now is talking about, right, all of these countries in the continent want a blockchain-based solution. And like I was saying just earlier, it's cheaper, right? And arguably it's more secure because there's no central point of failure if it's on a blockchain. So that's, in my opinion, the biggest pull for governments that are less stable, right? BSC, Binance Smart Chain. We also call that Binance Scam Chain, right? So essentially, here it is. Binance is it's a carbon copy of Ethereum, but the fees are cheaper. Why are they cheaper? Because it's centralized, and there's a grand total of like 20 nodes that are securing and running the Binance coin chain, and they're all owned by Binance. So you're sacrificing a level of security for a level of convenience. So just be really, really cautious with the Binance Smart Chain. I think as soon as ADA or some other third generation blockchain has a much faster option that's cheap, right? Binance is going to be irrelevant and just tank, in my opinion. Just me. Not financial advice, but
what do they get in my degree? Eventually, you're going to be able to share a single link with an employer to prove you've done what you said you've done, but also potentially with a financial provider, and be able to use this flexible and useful identity to be able
Your
to
French
get
has been
finance
pardoned.
for other financial services. So this is why it's exciting, because we're really at the beginning.
And Charles, you've spoken before, I know, about agricultural supply chains. I think you've done some work in Mongolia. I mean, this is interesting to me. One thinks of coffee, tea, even cobalt. How could this technology, actually verify these supply chains?
Yeah,
let's take a listen to what he has to say about this.
First, know who people are, and when you say people, you're also talking about devices. So IoT identity is a big deal. Your self-driving car has to be identified. Your drone has to be identified. And then once you have that base layer, then it's a discussion of transitions between those distinct actors, and those can be economic transitions. So whether that's a purchase, it's the movement of money. They can be other things like commodities, like the movement of coffee from one node to another node. All these things are identical. When you actually strip off the skin and the face, the bones, the muscles are the same. So this is why we enter in with identity and we get that infrastructure in place. And it's just a matter of a business and a social system at that point. So you always ask, well, what are you concerned about? What is your key driver?
Yeah,
is
I never
it,
put my money in a
fraud
Binance
reduction,
Smart
increased
Coin,
transparency in the
Smart Chain
supply
project
chain? Is it verification of claims such as this was organically produced, or there's fair trade, or this is carbon negative or carbon neutral? Every marketplace is unique in its demands and the questions it asks. But once you have the right foundations, your cost of verifying these things usually goes down dramatically, in some cases over an order of magnitude. The other thing is it's universal.
Said it, cost.
Once you've developed such a system, it doesn't matter if you're talking about a coffee supply chain in Java or a coffee supply chain in Costa Rica or in Ethiopia. The kinds of things you would do
I like Italian
reusable.
coffee, for those of you who are
build
wondering.
once, use everywhere. That's kind of the magic of software and the magic of the internet. The magic of infrastructure is that once we'd solve a very hard problem, that very hard problem became a very easy problem for everybody, and there was a reusability in that respect. So agriculture is certainly very important. We not only have stuff we've talked about in Mongolia, we also work with partners like Beef Chain in the state of Wyoming, And we even have people in the aquaponics business who come to us. We have people in the wine business who come to us. There's a Cardano wine in Napa Valley.
I love I love coffee. I love
California.
wine, and I
They
love
keep
beef.
sending me
I mean,
cases
I'm
of it,
okay
and I
with this.
keep
I don't know about
giving
you
it away,
guys.
but it's a
Yes.
great wine.
Also,
So it's something that we take
completely
care
agree.
quite a bit about.
Binance Smart
And
Chain.
What's very exciting is what we've done.
They're
here with
capitalizing on
President
the
Ethiopia
extremely
is a
high fees of
beginning.
Ethereum. That's
It's
what they're
not an
doing,
endpoint.
and it's a
It's
great
something that
business
will
model, but it's
organically
terrible
grow
for
to cover
security.
more and more of the
So it'll be
population.
irrelevant
And then as
in
we
about
look
a
to
year or
Digital
two.
Ethiopia 2025, the
But
agenda the
just
government
beware.
has, we can have broader conversations about how do we extend what we've already constructed and deployed to cover more and more things. A final point is that a lot of the demand for these systems comes from commercial activity or from grants and subsidy. So a lot of people like saying, well, I'll invest, but I need some audit terms and conditions. I'll go ahead
Dogecoin
and
is such a
give you
piece of
access
crap.
to this
It's a
marketplace,
joke.
but you have
If
to
you want to
prove
buy
certain
it, buy it
things.
as a joke,
So
but
when
don't
we have
expect
these
to make a profit
conversations,
off
it's not
of it.
just a cost center. It's usually a market opportunity center. In the case of Mongolia, for example, they have something called the third neighbors policy, where Mongolia wants to
Yes.
start exporting agricultural goods, in this case beef, to the United States. The USDA is not going to let them do that unless they can prove certain things about that beef supply chain. So when you say, well, if we install this system, it's not just, well, spend all this money, do all this stuff to get this thing running, and then hypothetically it's going to benefit you. You're saying directly after installing it, you now can sell into a new marketplace, and in some cases even have a existing commercial commitment, which in many cases will pay far more.
I want
than
to
the cost
I want
of
to
the
point out that
installation.
this is also
And
going to
that's what's
be
really exciting
removing
this
the
plan
need
of
for
ours is we roll out
regulators
throughout the
or
continent
an
of
entire
Africa.
industry that's
We
built on making sure
kind of
people
show
are
how
fitting
that
the standards
escalation of
before
market
something is
access,
input
that
into the
reduction of
country.
cost, and that
That's very
universality
disruptive.
is
So there's going to be a lot
going to be a
of
cornerstone in the
legal
digitization
pushback
of
from
this
people who
economy
have
up to
access to
2025
senators and
and beyond.
congressmen, right?
The third neighbor there, presumably being the US as opposed to Russia and China, is that right? To
Yeah.
give Mongolia a different outlet. Yeah. I mean, a follow-up maybe for you or maybe for one of the other panelists, something else that we've spoken about in the past, that you've talked about blockchain as a trust infrastructure, I think, presumably because these transactions are public, they're held on a decentralized network. I mean, this is a continent where trust in public institutions can be low, including in governments. And it's not as though, to be fair, blockchain, cryptocurrencies especially, haven't gone through their own fair share of scandals. And yet one can see the kind of the potential for transparency here. I mean, how do
BitConnect.
you see this sort of
Google it if you don't know about it.
in the trust sense?
Yeah, I mean, the core of the product that we're actually launching is about enabling digital trust. So much like
We need to wrap Charles in a bubble. Yes,
wallet,
Bubble Boy 2.0.
If you open it up, you've got your ID, your driver's license, medical insurance card. Normally, you just hand these over, and the other people just trust existing systems to just verify that that's authentic.
Guys, think about the bloat in the system, right? So think about how many different industries and different businesses are associated with ID cards, medical records, keeping the medical records. Think about all the servers, all the money they have to pay. It's so bloated and it's so overwhelmingly large, unneededly large, right? This is going to make things very efficient and slim them down, but you're going to be uprooting and changing the entire industry. So people, in my opinion, I view this as the equivalent of like the Industrial Revolution. Was it great for humanity in the long run? Yeah. Did it suck for the people who it was displacing in the short term? Yes, right? So just expect a lot of pushback from the current system that we have, at least in the Western world.
Some centralized party, they're held in their mobile phone or in their encrypted personal data vault. So users have complete control and ownership, and they're not giving up their trust to another party to hold these credentials. So come what may, they've always got that in their pocket, and it's up to them to share that with people that they trust.
Yeah, and trust you can look at from one or two directions. So you can either go from bottom up or top down. So bottom up is saying you inherit your trust from your culture, from your nation, from a group that you identify with. So I'm an American. Okay, so any preconceived notion you have about people from the United States, positive or negative, if we've never met, just hearing that title, you're going to stick that on me. But trust can work in the other direction as well. So you can look at the individual and say, well, okay, he's American, but he's Charles Hoskinson, and perhaps I have a unique identity that
Bart Pill, that is so spot on, right? So capitalism, I mean, like it or lump it, like it is what it is, right? So most of the people in the private sector are going to go look at this and go, well, how's this going to make me more money than the current system? And the simple answer is it's not. So this is not going to be something that we are going to be looking to come from the top down. It's going to have to come from the bottom up, right? So also, just in America, medical records, having a centralized database, there are tons of Americans that are super opposed to that. Now, I will say this, the fact that our government websites can be like DDoS attacked, that's a problem, right? So I wouldn't want a centralized solution. So a decentralized solution, in my opinion, is so much more appealing to me as a user of the system, right?
Reflecting the micro impressions you have of the people. I'll say, I've always worked with people from there. They're always honest. They're always nice. I like that. And then suddenly the entire nation state inherits that. It's very difficult to rebrand a nation state. The great example is the country of Georgia. They, for a long time, were one of the most corrupt countries in Eastern Europe. In fact, it was so bad when you'd fly into the country, they'd give you a bribe list and tell you how much you should expect to pay to bribe various government officials. I mean, talk about like self-defeating behavior.
Oh, hey, from the UK, Amanda. I have some friends there. You might know them. Votus 8. If you don't, look them up. They're a vocal ensemble there.
Government corruption, including firing their entire police force in Tbilisi. It was a remarkable effort. They went from one of the most corrupt nations to one of the least corrupt nations of all nation states, including Europe and the United States. However, there's still a latency in that perception. So when people say, I don't know about Georgia, are you sure you want to do business there? That's historically been a bad apple. And so this is another part of the magic of blockchain technologies. It helps the government disintermediate itself, in a sense, with its past. And it say, okay, well, I understand it used to work that way, but because it now works in this new system.
Also, Amanda, you might know Jacob Collier, right? Anybody needs to look him up too, side note. I'm Musepool. I cannot talk about musicians. Sorry.
Our prior reputation and brand. And I think a combination of these two things will bridge that trust gap. And this, by the way, is not exclusive in Africa or Eastern Europe.
Okay, Charles is talking about trust, and we already know about this, right? So essentially, history plays out depending on what people do as a what do you call it? Basically, a representative of their country can set a precedent for how people want to do business or not do business with people, right? So completely agree. And yes, Edu, the governments are going to oppose a lot of this because, remember, at least in the States, I'm not going to talk about any other country yet, but at least in the States, business people, right, and corporations have direct access to politicians. What blockchain is going to do is going to upset corporate America. It's going to upset the business sector, right? And they don't like that because it's going to make some of them obsolete. So what are they going to do? They're going to use their political clout, and they're going to go, because they give money to the politicians and money talks, they're going to go to the politicians and say, you do not need to pass legislation that benefits blockchain. They're actually, if anything, they're going to say, you need to make it super inconvenient to do anything for blockchain because this is cutting into our profits, right? That's happening right now. Why do you think America does not have a Bitcoin ETF yet? Because people haven't figured out how they're going to completely profit from this yet. That's all it is.
It's pretty magical.
Well, clearly, Charles, you're a believer in technology if you think it's going to restore faith to the US electoral system after what we've seen. But this is actually what I would like to maybe end on with, and I could quickly go around each of the panelists. I mean, I think you wouldn't mind if I describe you all as Afro-optimists. You know, this is a continent that clearly has its fair share of problems. It has a lot of poverty. There is some instability in different parts, not everywhere by any means. There are infrastructure shortfalls. And of course, the continent has been hammered economically by COVID-19. And yet here you are, four people kind of talking quite positively about this continent. Could I go around each of you and just say, you know, just ask, where do you see the continent in the say 5 years ahead?
A lot of people are comparing Africa to China in the 80s, just as an aside, if you haven't heard that yet.
If I could start maybe with Dinal, and we could go around.
Yeah, I mean, there's when you look at Africa, it's a very youthful place, and you know, I was having a chat the other day with a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur here. It's like we've got a lot of ideas. We're never short of ideas.
I think,
what we lack really is capital, and
power corrupts,
it's very hard for us
to absolutely corrupts.
To get our ideas off the ground, because normally we need to kind of get a proof of concept together before VCs take us seriously, and we need to go the extra mile compared to Western countries. And really what we're enabling, and I think what makes me really excited about everything that we're doing, is really democratizing access to that finance. So the entrepreneur here on the continent, and there's many of them.
Bart Bill,
can access
completely
this
agree. I think the people who have the vision that can look ahead and realize that now are going to be well positioned in the future.
There's other ideas
this is a
that we've got,
transfer of
for
wealth,
example, if you look at the
like I don't think
catalyst,
we've ever seen.
And the interest we've managed to get there from many small companies wanting
Time
to
is
build,
on our side.
bringing that to the continent.
What is that?
all
Copyright
these
Benjamin Cohen?
entrepreneurs can access that capital as well. So I'm really positive. I'm excited for them. I think happy to be work with them on that journey.
Listen, we all know Wakanda is now located in Ethiopia.
I wouldn't categorize myself as an optimist. I'm actually more of a skeptic and a realist. I've been in the industry for 25 years in the IT industry, and I've seen all the waves of disruptive innovation. And in fact, before I joined this company...
Side note, blockchain to me is like the DARPA project for the internet in the early 90s right now.
The data supports it. So just to answer your question about Africa, this is not just about what we think is going to happen and being optimistic. The data supports this, right? The economic development, the literacy rates, the connectivity, all that's going in the right direction. Of course, there are problems. Of course, things like pandemics can set things back, but the long-term trend is definitely there. I mean, I think, Charles, you've mentioned this before about thinking of China back in the 70s. I think the analogy is very accurate, and I don't see it as optimism. I see it as realism. The other side of it is, just going back to the flash in the pan comment before, again, I'm in this industry. I'm seeing real life use cases. I'm seeing the change happen. And there's unique attributes of this new world of blockchain that didn't exist before. And
totally agree,
I
Amanda.
can see it on the ground happening. And there's no surprise that big industries, the institutions are all coming in, the central banks, they all see it as well. And if you read all their reports, they know this is going to happen. So
Side note, you guys are going to start seeing and hearing about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, right? Office of the Comptroller came out in January and stated that it is illegal for banks to use open source blockchains as their settlement layer solution as opposed to SWIFT or Visa network. That should let you know everything you need to know. They see the writings on the wall, and they're making legal inroads to make it okay for things to be integrated.
Including small businesses that are looking to solve problems in an open source fashion. So you plug into the system in Africa, and then
Vibranium,
you could source solutions
yes,
from across the globe to solve your problems. That's very unique. And I think where we saw in the past a lot of technologies leading to a digital divide, this technology is kind of the first.
Hopefully
big
one
push
day
for the reversal
people
of
will
the
realize
digital
that
divide,
Doge
because
is
it does democratize. It does give power to the edges.
Has no
and
value.
I could just give one use case that I saw recently that really blew my mind. There was this girl in Pakistan who was a very talented artist, and locally they knew her as a talented artist, and she made these paintings. But of course, she couldn't get finance to become a full-time artist. But with the blockchain, she was able to present her art to the world.
If you guys watched any of my other videos that I've posted, you will see random little Doge things pop up in the video, and I do it on purpose because I just want to make sure everybody knows it's a freaking joke. So, yes. Also, there's no such thing as safe moon. It's about as safe as a ball pit full of needles.
The data is there, and as the years go by, the general population will see more and more of it.
Right. John, anything to add? You're sitting there in Addis Ababa, I think.
I am. That's why my internet connection's not great, and you may not be able to see me. Yeah, for me, the identity shift is going to happen, right? So we're going to be seeing digital
What is up with this
identity
camera right now?
percolate
Side note, when you do videos,
all
guys,
of
never
the,
shoot from the bottom up.
the
Always
states
shoot
which we're
from the
talking about
top down.
across
It's just
Africa,
not
and I think
flattering.
that process has already started, and we're just part of that wave. Where I get really excited is starting to think
Totally
about
agree,
open
Kelk.
finance and how we can drive down the cost of capital for an entrepreneur, for a small and medium sized enterprise. And that's where I think Cardano is really going to shine. We've got $45 billion of liquidity on the platform right now. If over the next year, we can start to offer finance to smallholder farmers at a much lower interest rate than they can get through local capital, I think we'll.
So this is like microloans, right? And liquidity pools, right? So like liquid finance, that's going to help facilitate that. These are DeFi projects.
But let's start with real finance, right? You know, we have people who have economic needs, and they have needs for loans. And for
Yes, his art makes up for the lack of good camera angle or camera in general.
be proud of itself. So this is where I hope we're going.
And Charles, are the regulators up for this? And is it fair to describe you as an Afro-optimist?
Here's the question, regulators.
You know, first off, there are rich people, poor people in every place in the world. Go to San Francisco and take a look at how many homeless people are running around. And supposedly the United States is the wealthiest country in the world. And the reality is that for some people, we're the poorest country in the world, and we're brutal to our impoverished in this country. So, you know, and people, they have this negative opinion or this patronizing opinion. Oh, this group or this continent or this country is impoverished. There's no material difference between those people and our people. It's just systems are different. And systems are what make people collectively richer or poorer. I hate the poverty in my own backyard. I hate the homelessness in my own backyard. I hate the fact that despite the fact we're such a big and powerful nation, there are whole communities that are devastated and left behind. I can't change that through the ballot box in the United States any more than voting has changed anything in our financial system in the last 25 years. What I can do is change systems, and then you go and look for who's in the business of a new system. Yeah, it's kind of funny. We get startups, and it's obvious to us that you're going to probably, if you're a clever investor, make a lot more money buying a startup's share and watching it grow and appreciate than buying a share of Microsoft at its $2 trillion valuation. But we don't think about startup nations. It's the same concept, though. A nation state has a collection of activities, and it competes against other nation states.
It's a pretty fair assessment.
These other nation states are incumbents, and they have systems. And so if you have a startup nation that's actually changing the way it does things, within 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, a huge delta will occur, and those systems will create a collective wealth for all the citizens of that nation. Look at Singapore and how far they've gone in 100 years. I'm in the business of selling systems. That's what blockchain entrepreneurs do.
Side note, basically what he's saying is we don't like the game you're playing, so we know you're not going to make the rules fair, so we're just going to not play this game at all, and we're going to go have our own game. That's what he's basically saying, and I love it. I think it's so true.
But I see a huge uptake in Africa, and it makes me optimistic. You can't tell me when you have population demographics of 70% at or under the age of 30, and they're internet enabled.
Side note, if you guys like
this,
feel free to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would love you to subscribe, please.
Over 10 years or 20 years. And they're not going to go and say, how about we go to a regressive old system that's already been proven to be wrong? They're going to say, let's try something new. Let's experiment. Just like Japan did in the 1950s.
South Africa,
they were
man,
reconstructing their country from the back of World War II. And look at what it did for them. And analogously, the same thing is going to happen throughout the entire continent. And if we're in the right place at the right time, and it really is like being in China in the 1980s or early 90s, where you recognize that it's materially different from the policies of the past. And so that makes me tremendously optimistic. It means that first, we can change the lives of over 1 billion people. And second, if we do it the right way, because those people are getting really rich really quickly, we can change the lives of all the people around us in our homes, whether it be the UK or it be America, because these nation states are dynamic and they recognize if they're falling behind, they have to change things. Just like newspapers had to recognize that the internet was a threat to their business model. And the ones that admitted it became the New York Times. The ones that didn't became the Rocky Mountain News. I like the Rocky Mountain News. It was a great paper. It's gone. There's no one there left. So that's where we're at, and we're in the systems business. And so I think Africa is the best place to sell what we have. There's an overwhelming demand for it from every side that you can look at. And also, I like dealing with young, hopeful, optimistic people. I'll give a quick intro about that in a second. And he worked at NASA for a long time. And he told me, he said, SpaceX is going to take us to Mars. And this was right in the early days of SpaceX. I said, how do you know? Musk is not a rocket scientist. He's not like a big guy in this. Because his friend was at NASA during the Apollo mission, and everybody in the Apollo mission was young, and they were passionate, and they were just filled with life.
I'll give my info on that in just a second.
And they wanted to change the world. They had this mission, and it was almost like a divine quest for them. There was no challenge that was too big to achieve. And so they
Papa
got it done.
Charles.
They took us to the
Oh,
moon.
man.
And you look at NASA today, it's very bureaucratic.
Guys, go and
Everybody's
subscribe to
siloed.
World Mobile Team
Everything is slow. There's this
while you have a chance
expectation
to.
it takes 10 years to do anything. You look at SpaceX's composition.
World
you have all
Mobile
these
Team.
25-year-old, 30-year-old guys and gals who are fresh out of school, and they honestly believe they're going to Mars. They're fanatics in that respect. So who do you want to bet on? Do you want to bet on the people who are cynical and bureaucratic and too wise for their own good and say it's never going to happen? Or do you want to bet on the kids who are willing to work 100 hours a week if necessary, every day, 7 days a week, with a fanatical resolve to change things?
They're
You
hungry.
look at nation states, you ask ourselves, where are we? In America, we have a 79-year-old president. We have this ossified Senate and this Congress.
Okay, so while he's talking about this, I want to point this out. So true. Now, here's the problem, right? So in the States, our demographics are the younger generation. We can say younger, right? So like the 30-year-olds, that generation, there's more people. But you still look at who actually goes to the ballot box and votes. It's the elderly. So people complain that our system is antiquated and ossified and that our politicians are older than dirt and have no connection whatsoever to the common American. Well, you know, your vote, if you don't vote, then you can't complain. But yes, he's completely spot on.
So thanks very much. I found the discussion very, very interesting. Clearly a lot going on. Thank you.
So that's pretty much it now for the Africa special. But I think to close the show, we need to go back to John O'Connor, our Director of African Operations, who I believe is currently in Kenya. John, a lot of hard work to get here, a long journey.
No, Ben has not listened to me yet.
Hard work, and this is really the culmination of all of that effort. So super excited to share all of the, results with you guys.
So lots of activity right now, but how can we see the next year playing out?
Well, whilst our partnership with
we'll talk about
Ethiopia's
price in
Ministry
just a
of
second.
Education is super significant and definitely one of the largest blockchain implementations done. It's only really the first step in our goal to issue 100 million identities on Cardano and on the Tala Prism over the next 2 years. So whilst this first 5 million is really great, it's just one portion of the 30 million identities we've already
Guys, that's a
got in
big
our
deal.
pipeline for,
100 million people, that means 100 million addresses.
Tell us how that's going to make an impact.
By launching a telecoms company in Tanzania with World Mobile, we're going to be onboarding
Telecom, World Mobile, that's the
this
Twitter
year in
account I just
Zanzibar alone.
mentioned.
So the key USP here is offering data that's twice as fast at half the price. So not only is every single subscriber going to have an identity issued on a Tala Prism, but we're also going to be introducing the first real Fi loans by Q1 of next year.
So freaking cool.
So these are going to be loans which are provided through Cardano's liquidity, and which will for the first time offer a bridge between on-chain finance and real economic value for people.
That's going to take a smart contract, right, Alonzo?
Partnerships with their own roadmaps, a lot to keep track of. But in fact, we've launched a new website, haven't we, so that people can do exactly that.
Yeah, we have. There's going to be a specific portal dedicated to all things Cardano Africa, africa.cardano.org, and I think it's actually live right now. So this is going to be the best way for people to keep up with what we're doing, and we're really excited for people to start engaging with our content, learning how to code in Haskell, learning how to code smart contracts, and you'll be able to find out all that information on the portal.
Definitely, I
So
tweet
John,
about that.
thank you very much for
Buy
all
the rumor,
hard
sell the
work
news.
over the last few years, and also for helping us pull together today's Africa special. So that's it. Lots to take in. And
Yeah.
lots to
Okay,
look forward
John.
to.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, we're
We'll
going to
see
get
you
off
next
that
month.
for a quick second. And this is all about troubleshooting on universal audio stuff. Real quick, guys, I do want to point out two things, and I'll get off of here real fast. You guys were asking about COTI. And then you were also asking about what I think about the market and what's going on with the price for a quick second. So I'll tell you real fast. COTI, this is the partnership that they're going to be utilizing COTI for nonprofit organizations so they can receive payments in ADA, we think, and then convert to, I would imagine, to USD or something like that. If you want to know how to buy COTI, there's a lot of people that are asking about that. And just a quick thing, I want to point this out. So I started CoinGecko. I type in COTI in the search bar, brings me to COTI. I go down here, and then I actually will go to their website, COTI.io, which is where I just went, right? And then if you look right here, you can get a COTI wallet right here on this link, or Google Play Store. If you go to the home, go to buy and sell COTI. Is what you're going to have to do. You go down here, and then actually, let me see where I found it at last time. Right here. So it says now they have it listed on CoinMarketCap, right? So if you click on this link, it takes you to CoinMarketCap, and then I want you to take a quick look at where it says contracts. Okay, so we're looking down, boom, 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 contracts. Now that has more. There are 2 contracts. That means there are 2 chains that you can actually buy a COTI token on. So one is Ethereum, one is Binance. I wouldn't use, well, I mean, you can use Binance. It'll probably be cheaper with fees, or you can use a layer 2 solution on Ethereum. You know, whatever you think about that. But anyways, you copy this address, and then you can add it to your MetaMask wallet, and that lets you view your COTI tokens, right? So you can go and buy COTI like on Uniswap. I wouldn't use Uniswap because the fees are really high, and you can keep it in your Ethereum wallet until, I would imagine they're going to have a token on Cardano here pretty soon. So just to let you guys know. Yeah, we're asking what's going on with the price for ADA. So if you just come over here to, let me pull this over here. So if you look at the entire market, Bitcoin dumped 3% or 3.5%. So the USD price of ADA went from like $1.40, and we're back down to $1.30. But I do want to take a moment to take a quick look at the ADA BTC comparative, which if you look right here, it's actually up 1.9%. So if you take a look at this real fast, just right now for the hourly chart, if you look right here, we have dropped below the 20. This is in 1 hour, so don't let it freak you out. But we have a support right here, right, and that held. So this might actually get. So if you just, this is my wonderful TA, right? So if you just draw a little triangle here, it might get squeezed between this support line right here and this moving average. So just to let you guys know, we might see it if it breaks to the upside, and I think we'll probably retest 25, maybe 2,600 Satoshis. So, and we want that. And just also an aside too, if I zoom out and just take a look at the daily, I just want you guys to take a quick look at this. We have our next, I mean, like, guys, we are above essentially, right, the current resistance. I would like to see personally this close all the way back in March of 2018. But we got to a high, I think the high was, what was it, 25.20. I would love to have a close above 25.20 on the daily, and that would let me know that our next price target is we're trying to make it up to that like 3,000 Satoshi level, right? So this is like short term, and I hope that we see that in the next couple of days, right? So, and yeah, side note, what you're asking, somebody asked, like, what do you do? Do you swing trade? Do a day trade? So here's the deal. I have my total financial for crypto. I take the bulk of that, and that's in my stake pool. Use stake pool. It stays there. I don't think I've actually traded or even moved it in like 2.5 years, right? So that just stays there. And then I have a portion allocated to swing trade. And those of you that are on Benjamin Cowan, if you subscribe and you have his risk metric, then you know about that, right? So I have a portion of my portfolio that I swing trade based off of risk metrics. And then I have an extremely small portion of my portfolio that I try to attempt and be a day trader and try to catch trades. I've done okay, but I would say it's less stressful. Trade by risk metric or swing trade the trends, right? Trend is your friend until the end. Don't fight the trend. But that's typically what I do. Guys, yeah, you can stake and get 5.5% annual on an appreciating asset, right? So, and very soon, DeFi is going to be activated. So then you're going to be able to get more. So all like the yield farming or microloans or borrowing against your assets to get like a stable coin and then increase your purchasing power. All of those tools are going to be available to you whenever Alonzo goes live, beginning of August, right? So just to let you know. So that's what I would do if I were you. 5.5% APY over 73 epochs. Just a side note, in ADA, if you didn't know, time is measured in epochs. An epoch is 5 days, right? And so there's 73 epochs in a year. So your APY, right, your average return, it's going to fluctuate per epoch basis. So some epochs you might, like there is an element of luck built into the protocol, right? So some weeks or some epochs, the pool won't do as well. You might get 4% or might get 3%. Other weeks, some of these pools are they'll get really lucky and they might get up to 8% in one epoch. So it averages out over time, roughly 5.5% APY, right? So if you don't stick with mine, that's fine. I would love it if you did. It helps me keep doing what I'm doing by building. Well, one, I like making content, but that's secondary to my primary goal, which is to build an alternative for musicians so they can actually make a living, as opposed to having to have side gigs and side jobs because they don't get paid enough because there's so many middlemen that take profits and gatekeepers that take too many profits, right? So just my thoughts. Let me see. Yeah, how do you keep track of everything for taxes? So if you day trade, right, the onus is on you to keep track. Every trade you make is a taxable event, right? So there are a couple of online solutions that you can link your API keys with these online solutions, and I can do a video about that later if you guys would like. And then basically when you do that, it'll automatically do it for you. So, but these are services and they do require like you have to pay for it, right? But you know, if it saves you money in the long run by catching some tax loopholes or etc., it's not a bad thing. So yeah, somebody said 225 by the end of the week. I don't know about that. I think it depends on what Bitcoin does. Let's be honest, right? So if you follow Ben, you know where that bull market support band is, right? Roughly $44,500. We didn't technically touch it. So we actually technically haven't had a retest. So I think that's still in play. Just going to throw that out there. We might go up some before we come back down, but I don't think the shakeout's over yet. That's just my opinion. However, what I'm always watching is the ADA Bitcoin comparative. That's my biggest watch because USD is irrelevant. If we get to 3,000 Satoshis and then hold that and the Bitcoin pumps to $100,000, that's going to have a pretty high valuation, right? So I think all depends on what our daily close is and then where we end up. It's going to give us a short-term target on where we're going. So yeah, if we break to the upside above $1.50, I think 220, 240 is in play. But if we break to the downside, 70 cents, that's also potentially in play. So just make sure that you keep some fiat in reserve so you can buy the dip, because the bull market is nowhere near over. Okay. ADA price prediction for the next Bitcoin halving. Oh man, I have no idea. Who knows? I do think that we could potentially have seen after we pump, right? After we reach our peak for this season, for this cycle, I do think we're seeing extremely strong support of this $1.20 area. It's like a magnet both ways. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is all hearsay, right? So let's say theoretically, because no one knows, and don't listen to anybody telling you they know, because if they do, then they're lying. If we pump the $10, right, then that would say, like, for example, $10 that'd be a lot, right? So let's just say even $5. I think we could see a strong support after the bull market at around that $1.20 area. So that's just my opinion on that. So yeah, guys, I'm really happy you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. So I hope you felt like this was worth your time. And let me see, any other questions? Yeah. End of the year price prediction. Side note. So this year, though, I will say this. I think when Alonzo goes live, the buildup in price going into Alonzo, so over the summertime, that to me is going to be pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be pretty big. It's not the right word, but I think the price is going to pump. I think it's going to outpace the actual event. And I think when the event happens, we're going to have a dump, and then it's going to find its market value, I think. But here's the deal. In my opinion, you guys need to be listening to the news now, and you need to be watching what's being built on the test net. That's going to be important. So not what's launching in mainnet. Yes, that's going to be great and dandy. However, you guys need to be watching things that are building now, because the smart contracts, Plutus, is going live on a test net, right? Like now. So all of these things that can run on the mainnet, they're already going to be able to run on this testnet right now, theoretically. So we will have a really good idea of what products are being built and what products are going to be available at launch. Like, we'll have a sneak peek now. Just keep track of these products, and I'll do my best to try to have these other guys on to kind of give you updates as things are going on, so they know, and what you know what to look for, right? So just to let you know my investment strategy right now for Cardano, yes, I dollar cost average into ADA, but I'm also dollar cost averaging into products and projects that are building on or will be transitioning over to Cardano blockchain, right? So Singularity Net, AGI, Ergo, it's a proof of work, but it's highly integrated and tightly integrated with Cardano, right? So those two are just prime examples of things. Cardex Dex, they're touting themselves to be a decentralized exchange for ADA, right? Well, remember we talked about, if you watch my video with the founder Ryan, they're going to be releasing a token pre-sale. I can't remember, he didn't give a specific date, but go over to Cardex Dex on Twitter, follow them. If you join their Discord, in the general comment section, he gives updates. So if you want to have an opportunity to get it's to kind of get into an early project that's being built, that's an option for you. So just to let you know. So yes, the testnet sounds so much Terminator. Do you invest in any launch pads? So here's the thing with launch pads, right? So I think Polkadot's like the ultimate, right, launch pad for things. People that are they're trying to get that parachain slot. I think if you can get on the whitelist to receive airdrops for these parachain projects, I think that can be lucrative in the short term, right? But let's be honest, that's the equivalent of like an ICO. It's not the same thing, but it's equivalently like you're buying in to the hype and you're buying into the promise of something that has not been built yet. They're just strictly asking for funds to help build it, right? So, and they're asking for your funds, whereas Project Catalyst is asking for the protocol's funds. So I would just be very, very cautious, really do your research, and just know that if you buy anything on a parachain, for example, I'm just going to use Polkadot. If you buy into any of their parachains, be ready to, I wouldn't be married to those tokens. If I were you, I would just use those as an excuse to get more capital to be able to buy more long-term hold projects. Just my thoughts. Yeah, thank you so much, Kelk. I really appreciate it, man. I enjoyed doing this. What are my thoughts for XRP? Man, all right, guys, here's my thing. I'm happy for you if you make money on XRP. I think it's rat poison. That's just my opinion. Yes, I just used a Warren Buffett term. Here's the thing. People need to realize that all these partnerships that they say they have with all these banking systems, et cetera, that's with Ripple, not XRP. Those are two different entities. So I do need you to really, really understand that. So, and they're piggybacking on the hype of Ripple. Okay, so yeah, I've owned XRP once upon a time, and I made a profit, and I haven't touched it since then. I'm just being honest. So, and if you're an American, there's no exchanges right now that you can even do anything with it on. So I would just be cautious. Just me, just my thoughts. So, all right, guys. I think that's about it. I'm going to hop off of here, but I have an interview today with another guy who has a project on Project Catalyst. And this, you guys, I hope you really, I'll drop the video probably later today or tomorrow, but get ready. I think it's going to be informative. So if you haven't checked out any of my other videos, go check them out. Subscribe, click the like button if you like it, and I will talk to you guys next time. All right, peace out.